Well, good morning to you. How you doing? It's a very nice Monday morning here in Greater Manchester. Very cold, but it's lovely and bright. You can probably tell. It's bright. Big old window over there. It's Monday the 18th of November 2019. I hope you have had a nice weekend. Hope you've had a good one and a relaxing one. This is the newspaper review YouTube live stream, so I'm going to have a look at the front pages of the UK's newspapers in a second, and you can chat on the live chat amongst yourselves. We've had to unhide quite a few comments there. I'm sure you know this by now, but certain words, swear words, obviously, but certain other words like pedo and stuff like that are likely to have your comment or to result in your comment being hidden. And just to reiterate, we don't hide comments or delete anybody from the chat. So if a comment is hidden, it's because of a word you've used or language you've used. So if you want to be absolutely sure that your comment is seen by other people, I know the irony is so thick you could choke on it. Try to avoid using swear words in your messages. All right. Okay, I'll run through the comments and read a few of them in a minute. I suppose you're not going to swoon of shock, swoon in surprise that say it for me, that the newspapers, yes, are full of stories about the interview which was broadcast on Saturday night by the BBC. Its Newsnight programme hosted an interview with the Duke of York or Prince Andrew or whatever they're calling him. They tend to flit between the Duke of York and Prince Andrew. So there's a picture of him on the front page of the Times there. There is an article by Emily Maitlis inside the Times. Journalism has really changed in recent years. I won't bore you with that old chestnut. We are deifying now and making celebrities of reporters. I stand by my analysis and critique of the interview when I said that Maitlis was worthless as an interlocutor, as an interrogator, as a questioner. She was diabolical, in my opinion. It would appear that the UK's press and broadcast media are in total disagreement with me. They've put her on a pedestal this morning. Nikki Campbell on Radio 5 Live extraordinarily, on several occasions this morning, acclaimed her as one of the most forensically brilliant political interviewers of the modern era. No, she's not. She's garbage. And if I say so, it must be true. That's the front page of the Times. I subscribe, the show subscribes, the radio show subscribes to the Times, but I haven't read Emily Maitlis's ode to herself, I suppose. I'm an amazing woman and I did the interview and I'm amazing and this is how it made me feel. You're not amazing, love. Listen to the Richie Allen Sunday View radio show. I pointed out about 5 occasions when you could have nailed the guy and you didn't. You're not good enough. That's the Times. Here's the Sun. The Sun says the craziest claim made by Prince Andrew was that it was a great success, ma'am. Couple of stories today doing the rounds. One, that he told his mother that it went peachy on the way to church yesterday. And another one doing the rounds is that after he finished the pre-record with the BBC Newsnight team, he then escorted them on a tour of Buckingham Palace. And he was very chipper. Very chipper. Very chirpy. Very pleased, apparently. He thought it went really well. Strange rules and regulations that we, and including me, are bound by. Now, I'm not bound by Ofcom regulations. I'm not. but I am bound by. I've not had to do it very often, but if you pre-record something with somebody, if it isn't on a live programme, amazingly enough, you do have to get their consent to broadcast it, whether you're an Ofcom covered broadcaster or not. So he would have had to sign off on that, basically sign a release form. Once they'd recorded it, he would have had to go, all right, I'm happy for you to broadcast it. I don't know. That's the Sun. Let's have a look at the Mail. Andrew might regret over TV interview. He tells his friends of his sympathy for paedophile Epstein's victims. One of the most common criticisms thrown at him over the last 48 hours, 36 hours, is that he seems blindly indifferent to those who were trafficked and raped by the billionaire paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. He didn't seem to be too concerned about them. But to be fair, Emily Maitlis didn't ask him about the victims, did she? You know, the more I watch clips of the Emily Maitlis interview with Prince Andrew, the more I can pull it apart on so many levels. Maitlis didn't ask him. You know, I would have said to him, and a number of other journalists, mainstream ones of years gone by, would have done a good job with him. And one of the questions they would have asked him is, you don't seem to care too much, do you? It's not coming across in our conversation that you give an arse, really, about these girls. You know, you said you wandered around Epstein's New York domicile and were meeting a lot of people, but as far as you were concerned, they were the hired help. You don't seem too concerned now to learn that many of them were underage girls there under duress. You know, there's a million things Maitlis could have said to him, but didn't. That's the front page of the Mail. The Guardian. Apologise to Epstein's victims now, Prince told. Yeah. There's a lot of irony in that headline. Apologise to Epstein's victims. Right. Whatever you think of Prince Andrew, and I think there is overwhelming evidence that this guy was present and participated in orgies where underage girls were present. So he's a dirty fucking paedophile, in my opinion. Okay. But apologise to Epstein's victims. The I paper. It's nothing I haven't said on social media. Prince is pressurised to meet FBI. Well, the FBI have apparently said in the recent past that they don't really have time for him, or they don't want to ask him any questions. Will that change? Will it change? There was also some clown on BBC Radio 4 this morning suggesting that he might have to speak to the FBI. He cannot be compelled to speak to the FBI. No more than I can. Not without there's a whole warehouse full of bureaucratic red tape that would have to be negotiated first. But he's not in any danger of having to answer any questions, that the FBI might have. What does the Metro say? Duke of Porkies. Yeah, he was lying through his teeth. Of course he was. People don't answer questions in the manner he answered them unless they are being extremely careful with their answers, or unless they know they are lying and they are trying to figure out as they are going along, how do I get myself out of this one? What do I say here? Of course he was lying. Car crash. Cop. Andrew's sex alibi beggars belief. Ex-Royal Protection Chief rubbishes claims and calls for a police probe. We've got that here if you want to have a look. There it is. Inside the Mirror today. And it's an interesting one. Again, don't be holding your breath and expecting the you don't be expecting Metropolitan Police detectives to be beating a path to whichever palace this guy's holed up in at the moment. It's not going to happen. This guy is a guy called Di, D-A-I, it's a Welsh name, Di Davies. He said he was utterly unconvinced, of course he was utterly unconvinced by the Duke's denial that he slept with a teenager. He said he displayed classic signs of someone not telling the truth. Really? Do we need to be told by a former detective? And he called for a police investigation into the royals' friendship with Epstein and allegations that the paedophile even provided sex slaves to his rich pals. That's inside the Mirror, which is mirror.co.uk. There's a classic picture of Andrew with his arm around the kid as she was then, with Ghislaine Maxwell grinning on in the background. It's believed that Epstein, of course, took that photograph. Andrew's friends have been trying to denounce that photograph as fake in recent weeks, but there's no evidence that it's fake. And his assertion during the interview with Mateless that he doesn't have any recollection is a nonsense. Of course, it's a nonsense. You know, you wouldn't not remember being in an apartment in Manhattan with a very, very pretty young blonde girl having her photograph taken with her. It is not something you would forget. That's the Mirror. What's in the Express then? Boris to trigger a Brexit boom. £1 billion worth of tax cuts will turbocharge the economy, says the Express. But also coverage of the interview there, as you can see. The Star then, we'll go quickly through these. I didn't read this. Flakes told, choose your own race. Uni chiefs say anyone can identify as black. This is a story about snowflakery on the UK's campuses. I didn't read that yet, but I'll have a look at it. It must be funny. I'm guessing that the way is being paved for people to identify as whatever race they choose. Well, if you can choose from 1,000 genders or 100 genders, why not? Why not? Okay. It's coming up for 17 minutes to 10. Good morning if you're just tuning into this. It is nice to be with you. Gail asks me, what's the bet on Randy Andy having an accident, a heart attack or a crash in the next few weeks? No chance, Gail, I would say. I don't imagine he's got anything to fear from anybody. Why would he? Why would he? Who is going to come and speak to this guy? Who is going to insist that this guy is interviewed under caution? I would say nobody. I wouldn't imagine that that's going to happen. I don't see why it would happen. There might be a bit of talk about it around the interweb this morning. I'll tell you who might have to be careful. Speaking of people who might have to watch their step, she might have to mind herself. She procured girls for Epstein, didn't she? She was privy to Epstein's little black book, the names in it. She knows who stayed at the island regularly. She knows who went on the Lolita Express flights. She knows who attended the parties. This is the most recent picture of her, as far as I understand. Number of people have mentioned her this morning. She has been mentioned once or twice this morning on UK radio about why isn't this woman being sought for interview. Right? Right. So Gail, I don't expect he has to worry, no. No. Chat amongst yourselves there. Bernadette says, Richie, Andrew is a danger to the public. When he is under suspicion for his behaviour, a mountain of the powers that be will come out to cover up for him. Well, that's more like it. They'll cover up for him. He'll disappear from public life, won't he? His engagements will diminish, I suppose. You won't see him around very often, and he'll just go away. That's what will happen. Number of you saying it is the biggest car crash interview you've ever seen. A number of my devices are struggling to stay connected to the internet, so I trust that the live stream is still up. I hope it's still up, and I'll keep going until I see otherwise. Just a number of devices, the tablet, the laptop which I'm using now, and the phone struggling to stay connected to the internet. I don't know what the bloody hell's going on with that, but I'll stay with you anyway. It's just going to mean for me for the moment that I can't see your comments, so I apologise. I seem to be all right. I seem to be all right there. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So we'll keep going then with the stories. So it's not just the front pages. The newspapers, it being Monday, of course, the Sunday newspapers had a lot of coverage into them yesterday of this interview. There's quite a few stories inside the papers. The Telegraph alleges even, this is Camilla Tominey. She's the associate editor of the Telegraph. She's a pretty good journalist, Camilla Tominey. Normally political stuff. She alleges that the approval wasn't given to this guy to do this interview on Saturday. That she would have said nay or no, you shouldn't do it. So furious and serious questions being asked about it. Why did he do it? Why was he exposed in that way? Why were tighter controls not exerted on the Newsnight production team? Difficult to believe Camilla Tominey. No, I don't mean Camilla Tominey is telling lies. It's difficult to take this story seriously because one of the things, I can quote Emily Maitlis, the Newsnight production team were apparently in negotiation for 6 months with Andrew. It's hard to believe the Palace weren't aware that for 6 months they were trying to tie him down to do this interview. They must have known. And presumably they thought that the lesser of two evils was to at least show your face. That to carry on as normal, as if nothing untoward was happening in your life, would look foolish and would end up snowballing. Presumably they thought they could control it and they thought he would perform better. Presumably, but I don't know. This is me guessing. And I guess a lot, obviously, because I'm not privy to any of these people's comings and goings and what they think and what they don't think. But I would have to make the educated guess they decided lesser of two evils, get him in front of a camera and hope he performs well. Now, he would have been carefully coached before that interview. I know you might find that hard to believe. You might say, how could somebody so carefully schooled, come across so badly? Well, it happens all the time. It happens with material witnesses in court cases. It happens with the accused. This is why the accused are 99 times out of 100 told not to take the stand in defence of themselves when they are on trial. Why? Because you are fair game for the prosecution lawyers. You're fair game. You see, if you don't take the stand in your own defence, you cannot be compelled by the prosecution lawyers to do so. But yet if you do, and you take the stand to be examined by your own lawyer, well, obviously you get to come under cross-examination. And quite often, despite hours and hours of practice, you are destroyed under cross-examination. I reckon he was told to do the interview. I reckon he practiced for weeks to do the interview, but it didn't matter a damn. It didn't matter that Emily Maitlis was absolutely wretched. It didn't matter. He's such a poor and unconvincing witness that he hung himself out to dry. That's how I see it. But it doesn't mean I'm right. Just my opinion. I know you have your opinions. And why would my opinion be any more valid than yours? It isn't. It's just how I read it. So the Queen didn't approve it then. It's in the Telegraph, but I'm not buying it. Also a funny story in the Telegraph today as well that alleges, you can see it there in gold font, in gold colour. You see it there. The Prince of Wales was urged to consider downgrading the Duke when he becomes king. This makes me laugh. Here's the actual story. Prince Charles urged to exile his brother when he is king after misguided interview. Prince Charles would downgrade Prince Andrew when he is King Charles because Andrew's association with a paedophile has brought the royal family into disrepute. Really? Really? Huh? Really? I know I'm really, really poor at this. Really? Really? I'm thinking of downgrading Andrew. Yeah, you better take some of these photographs out of circulation first, you fucker. Huh? Here you are. Always belly laughing in his company, Charles. Always tickled pink. Always bursting his arse laughing is Charlie boy. Jug ears. Huh? Imagine Charles being urged to downgrade the Duke of York when he becomes king. I'll see your paedophile befriendery. I'll see your paedophile befriendery and I'll raise it. You seriously talking about getting Prince Andrew to testify or to give a statement under caution, really? Honestly, Prince Andrew. What about this fucker? Huh? What about him? Nothing to see here. Please disperse. Nothing to see here. Yeah. Prince, I didn't party or do PDAs. Andrew is pictured during plenty of both at wild parties on the French Riviera in 2007. And he looks a wee bit sweaty too. To give the UK print media its due today, we do spend a lot of time, of course, castigating them. They're doing their job. You know, this guy told a pack of lies about having had a traumatic coming under fire moment in the Falklands War, which screwed with his adrenaline and left him for a time unable to sweat. So the tabloids are doing their job today. They've dug up all across the tabloids, the Sun, the Star, the Mirror, any number of photographs from the 90s to the noughties of this guy sweating like a virgin on prom night even. Not a prom on virgin night. Yeah, a prom would sweat on virgin night. Yeah, so they're doing their job. That's good. Exile a brother, huh? I'll exile you. I'll send you off to that island with Greville Janner and Leon Britton. Fucking hell, huh? What else have we got for you? What else have we got? US Congress cracks down on ABC News for Epstein cover-up, demands to know who killed the story and why. This is RT. This appeared on the RT website about 4 hours ago. A letter dated yesterday, November the 17th, or the 17th of November, as we say on this side of the pond, has been written to ABC News president by the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. And Kevin McCarthy wants answers. He wants to know why the hell did ABC bury an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, we've all seen the video now, the hot mic of the reporter talking about how she had it all packaged and ready to go. The story about Epstein's abuse of underage girls. But ABC pulled the story. We've seen this, right? You know, you're aware of this, you're aware of this. So a letter dated yesterday from Kevin McCarthy to the president of ABC is saying, what the fuck, like? What in the name of God? You're supposed to be a journalistic operation. You get very, very firm evidence. You get very sound reporting. It's put on your desk and then you decide not to go with it. We understand the royal family intervened at the time. So Congress wants to know, what sort of news organisation are you? Letter written by them to ABC News. I think ABC is going to fall back on the old defence that they couldn't corroborate. We couldn't corroborate. We couldn't go to print, and of course ABC wouldn't be going to print. We couldn't broadcast. We couldn't go to air because we couldn't be sure of the veracity of the claims made against Epstein. That's what they'll say. Yeah. Lovely jubbly. What else have we got for you? Coming up for 10 o'clock. Student initiations at the country's universities are the basis of an interesting story in the Times this morning, which I read. Parents are becoming increasingly worried because kids don't want to play sports at uni, because some of the university sports teams have very dangerous, it's alleged, sometimes dangerous, initiation rituals which involve drinking copious amounts of alcohol, putting burning paper between your buttocks, eating dog food, pouring wine, full bottles of wine into your rectum, and in some cases drinking, I hope you're not eating your breakfast now, drinking pints of other people's vomit. This is going on at some of the more prestigious not academies, the more prestigious universities in the country, especially where they have rugby teams and hockey teams. And some really interesting examples there. Of course, there was a kid killed at Newcastle University a couple of years back, wasn't there? Basically drank himself to death overnight. I'm fascinated by, this sort of stuff going on at universities and boarding schools, particularly boarding schools. What else have we got for you this morning? This is interesting. I go and watch Salford play League 2 football. Me and my mate Tez, whom I mentioned, me and Tez, we go to Salford. We've got season tickets for Salford. Season ticket cost £125 this season. Gets us about 20 games. It's not bad, is it? Do the maths. It's pretty cheap. And we're sitting on the halfway line. We've got brilliant seats. And we love it. It's good. It's a nice way to spend every second Saturday afternoon. Out and about with other people, men, women and children, shouting on your local football team. Bread and circuses, maybe, but it's nice to be with other people. Now, apparently, some bloke was arrested for shouting homophobic abuse. This might be the first instance that I've come across anyway. Ian Whittle, writing about this in the Times today. Wycombe Wanderers, their goalkeeper, at the conclusion of a football match over the weekend, claimed that he was subjected to homophobic abuse from Tranmere Rovers fans. Now, Wycombe were away. They were playing away at Tranmere Rovers. So it's fairly common for goalkeepers to get abuse, especially when they are playing away from home. It's common for goalkeepers to get abuse when they are playing at home, because for at least 45 minutes, they are up close and personal with the away fans. This guy was playing away at Tranmere. The game concluded and he reported to the referee and to his manager that he was subjected to homophobic abuse, and shortly thereafter a bloke was arrested. These are scary fucking times, these. And I know that my gay listeners and viewers, I know that you are clever enough to know that I don't agree with somebody shouting out abuse at somebody. Abuse directed at their sexual orientation, whether the guy is gay or not. I don't agree with it. Of course I fucking don't. But how do we justify arresting people and charging them because they called somebody a name? You know? He called me a big dirty gay bastard, did he? He's a fucking idiot then, isn't he? I'm interested as to how you could fucking notice this. You're playing professional football in League One. You're a goalkeeper. You're supposed to be concentrating on the game. And you are offended that a guy swore at you and abused you and used language that you deem to be homophobic. These are scary times. They really are. I remember Graham Lasso playing for Chelsea years ago. And Blackburn. I think Graham is straight. Not that it's anybody's fucking business what he is. But he used to get dogs abuse, Graham. Fans took it upon themselves to invent a backstory for Graham that he was gay and gave him all sorts of abuse to try and put him off his game. He didn't give a shit. Just got on with it. So these are dangerous times. I know I labour the point. I know I do. And maybe some of you disagree. Maybe some of you are that sensitive that you think it's a good idea to be arresting people for shouting stuff at a football match. But it's not good. What else have we got for you today? This made me laugh in RT. Never came across a story like this in all of my days. Opponent must always be respected. Italian youth football coach was sacked because his team won 27-0. Now, let me explain the difference. What difference, Richie? We don't know what you're fucking talking about. Okay, let me explain. I spent years as a football coach at Hibernian FC in Waterford. I coached under 11s, under 12s, under 15s, under 16s and under 17s. Not at the same time. Each coach was given one team. But during my time with Hibernian, which I loved, I didn't have any qualifications, mind. I'm glad that schoolboy football these days, schoolboy and schoolgirl football, I'm glad that you do have to have a basic coaching qualification. It should be the case. I agree with that. But in my time, it was difficult to get people to coach the teams, right? But I've always had a little bit of knowledge of the game, and I played Sunday league football myself. I was never much good, but I was always very fit. And what I used to do, I was clever, you see. When I coached schoolboy football, I used to get help from the professional football club Waterford United, because we were next door to the RSC in Waterford, and because we had good relationships with the football club, I used to get some of the professional players to come and help me as much as help the kids. And I loved every minute of it. And we had some success. The teams I coached were good teams. We had a good catchment area. We had some good boys, some good lads. And I picked up quite a bit from the professionals on how to coach drills and stuff like that. And I loved it. Get to the fucking point, Richie. The point is, at the under 11, under 12 level, sometimes we would play against a group of boys who weren't great. And sometimes the score would start running up. And in that instance, the referee would usually take it upon himself or herself to either finish the game a little earlier or prevent us from scoring too many goals. And I never had a problem with this. This wasn't snowflakery. You just didn't want to embarrass young boys. And a nice thing was, we used to send in the match reports to the local paper. All of us, the coaches. So we might play a team from across the city and we might win by 7 or 8 goals, but we'd never put that into the paper. We'd put in 3-0. And the boys, the young boys, used to go bananas on Tuesday when we met up again for the coaching. Richie, why the fuck does it say 3-0 in the paper? We won 8-0. Shut up, you little bastards. I would explain it to them. Look, we don't want to embarrass people because they were young. And when they got a bit older, 16, 17, I managed the youth team, the under-18 team, for a year. I had the help of a great former player called Sean Moran. Me and Sean took the team. At that level, if you got bet 6 or beaten 6 or 7-0, tough shit, Paddy. It goes in the paper. This is an under-18s team. It's an under-18s team that was beaten. What's happening? What's happening here is there's an issue with the internet here, and it's going to have to be addressed. All the devices are jumping offline and online, and it's happening every few minutes. So I think I am back. Yeah, I think I am back. But just to make the point, I am having serious internet issues here today, and it might affect proceedings later on. So we'll see. Right. I'm going to wrap it up anyway for this morning. The papers are full of the Prince Andrew Epstein thing. And, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're back. We're back. But some of the devices are again disconnecting and reconnecting. There's an issue, I think, here. Right. We'll sort it. We'll get on it and we'll sort it. Right, I'm going to leave it there for now. Before I go offline again, because it's going to go offline.